Alright, well I finally got around to redoing my auxiliary transmission cooler. I added this to help keep the transmission from adding too much heat to the engine and make sure my tranny was running cool. I contemplated actually just running this air cooler and eliminating the engine coolant heat transfer cooler, but because this one's now in line first, I'm hopeful that this will actually help keep the engine a little cooler, but I can always reroute it to eliminate that cooler if needed. But that's the cooler that was run on the RTS buses that use this transmission, so leaving it's fine with me. When I originally installed this last year, I had assumed that this fitting on the side of this Allison V730 was the output. I don't know why I assumed that, but I did. And so I had it running up to the cooler, and then out from the cooler down to the original cooler, which is back there. And then, of course, after going through the cooler, it connected here to the bell housing. Well, after I did that and posted a video, someone reminded me that this is actually the output, and so I was running it through this cooler first, which didn't make much sense. So I have redone it. It exits here now and runs up and into the cooler. It comes out of the other side of the cooler and goes all the way back there into the original cooler, and then it exits the original cooler and snakes its way back down to the return. So we'll see in the spring when I start doing some trips with this thing if that will give me any extra cooling on hot days climbing the hills. We'll see. I got a fair bit of cooling just from having this cooler even after that, which I was thankful for, but if I can get some more, I'll be okay with that too. The other thing that I did is originally there are on the back 2 fans mounted to this, and they run off a relay through a circuit breaker, and originally I had wired them off of the positive terminal on the alternator so that they were powered all the time, and that triggered the relay and provided the main power for the relay. And then I had a temperature switch here. I don't remember what temperature this one was, 160 or something, that grounded the relay, and I had that run through this wire here. And that worked, but it wasn't kicking on until at least 160. And because it grounds through the threads, and these are pipe threads, I couldn't use enough pipe dope or tape to actually seal. That's why this is all wet. It's seeped just a little, but it's really annoying to have it seep. And it was kicking on later than intended because the temp sensor wasn't really in the flow. It was down where that little 1/8" pipe plug was. None of the fittings I could find with a port big enough for this temp sensor that weren't ridiculously expensive. Someday I may make one. I wouldn't mind putting one right here on the input to my cooler and having a temp sensor there so I can add another gauge, but I haven't done that yet. But I now have it wired where this brown wire triggers the relay, and it is off of a terminal on the far side. It's up under this cover back there, but it is only powered when the main power switch is on. Basically when the engine is running, this relay is triggered. It's still pulling power directly from that B+ terminal to actually run the fans, because there's plenty of juice there, and it is just grounded all the time. So it won't have a delay. It will kick on as soon as the engine is running, but I don't think I'm going to have an issue with having too cool of a transmission. If end up having problems with that, I will let you know. I have been during trips shooting this and hoses and different parts of the transmission with my infrared thermometer, non-contact, to get a sense of its temp. So I'll keep doing that and see what it does. And obviously I've got a temp gauge for the engine. I would like to I would like to add a transmission temperature gauge. I have room for it in the gauge pod. Oh, this place is a mess. But this is my gauge cluster, and where this little dial is to adjust the brightness used to be a gauge, and I could easily drill that out and stick a little 2-inch temp gauge for the transmission. Yeah, so we'll see. Not today, but I've got the cooling hose situation fixed, and I fixed my weeping leak. So I can call that a day.